Crypto market has dropped 10 to 15% in general in the last 24 hours. If you are going to look at a lot of assets, you would see like Ether is down 20% in last week and XRP is down like 11. So that actually shows like, okay, if you are looking at BTC, it's somewhere in between, and altcoins, others like BNB, XRP, these are now mostly following Bitcoin, not Ether. So when you actually look at these charts, say this one for Bitcoin, you'll actually see like, okay, we did drop, and right now you are having this small candle as usual. After each drop, big ones, you kind of get these. And if you are looking at Ether, it was still going to the downside. Now, we actually highlighted why that's happening in the Patreon, right? We actually showed like, okay, the exchange inflows were increasing yesterday, and that kind of pointed out like, okay, more or less, you are still going to continue to the downside. And today we actually got that. And in yesterday's video, we talked about what's happening, like 20 to 30% drop in general is possible. And here we are 25% to the downside. But is this downside the last leg of this capitulation before we actually go in? So can this actually be a launch pad for us to go to the upside? Now, this is a pattern which is bearish in general, where in this particular pattern, you may drop from 10% all the way up to 18-20%. But in reality, if you are looking at the market, yes, it has dropped 24%. But if you look at it from this break, where it actually broke this particular pattern, if you are measuring this, you actually came to the maximum, close to that. So if I'm looking at this on a shorter term scenario, I would say like, okay, the measured move is kind of completed. So most likely this is the last leg of capitulation happening here. And one thing which we all have to keep in mind, whether you're bullish on Ether or not, the market sentiment is changing. You saw that the market traded inside here. We stayed there for some time. Then what happened? The market actually broke higher. So as we did that, the market remained confident enough and it is still moving higher. So now what we want to see is, yes, we did this range and we bounced above. We broke above this range. We had a short retest and then we continued that to the upside. But right now when you're dropping on a macro scale, what we are looking at is great stuff. Now I would say like, okay, this is a low which we put in. And if you are going higher, you did not actually make a higher high, because for that, the market on this time horizon will have to go above $3,500. But if it is making a new low somewhere here and the market is able to bounce, now that really is bullish. And that's one of the reasons why I would say like, okay, this really is a key area. Now we came here, we tested this top, that was the moving average. We expected it to drop a little bit and we dropped. And in yesterday's video, we talked about that, like 15 to 35, 37% is what Ether does historically. And it actually did that right now. So if I'm looking at this, I would actually think most likely you may get another candle maybe consolidating here, but this 50-day moving average on a 3-day chart can be significant enough for you to see a momentum bouncing from here. Now, going back to a short-term scenario, yes, right now, if I'm looking at the chart, I would actually say like, okay, Ether, I'm not super bullish, but the chart actually suggests you that you are getting this pattern where for a short term, you actually broke to the downside. I do agree on that, but then you bounced back in, you came back in. So if you are looking at this, this is a falling wedge. So when we had a rising wedge on a short-term pattern, we did suggest that on a short term, the price may break to the downside. What happened? The price broke to the downside. So right now what we are observing here is a bullish pattern from the RSI. And if you look at what happened last time when we had a similar pattern here, the price actually went back up. Now, if we go back higher, we do have key levels to break through, because if we don't, then the market is gonna retest these lows. So to make sure and say like this is the launch pad where we are gonna start the next big rally, no one can say that 100%. But right now, when you're in the market looking at what's happening at this level of support with some level of thought process, being a little bit pretty confident there, you can say like, okay, you are observing coins dropping, but they're still not making a new low, whereas they are still staying in green for the month, for the quarter. So when we are putting that in here, we get a perspective. So if you are looking a little bit deeper, now you get more knowledge from here, right? And as you look through this, for me, this is like, okay, the short-term sellers, they moved out. It's like, compared to these change, this was a big change. But that's the short-term guys who come in and move out from the market. But if you look at medium to long-term holders, they increased their position. So if it is me, I'm looking at this like, okay, medium term guys, some of them came in, some of them went, but anyone who's long term, they stayed inside this market. They are bullish. And if it is me looking at this, I'm like, okay, this is actually a great step. Right now, in last week, BTC held less than a year in cumulative for a week, went up. So that for me is actually a great news, a good news, because if I'm looking at that, I would more likely align towards the direction of saying that, okay, this is great. Then you go to look at the demand side of this. So the total flows of BTC here to fiat exchanges reduced 12% from last day. And then to crypto exchange, it dropped 37%. So for me, looking at this, that is significant. Now, why would I say that? You go into Ether and you're looking at Ether and the same stuff. You go into the demand side of it and then you look at this and you're like, okay, Ether flowing to fiat exchanges, that's 142% up in last day. That for me, fiat exchange, most likely you're going into the fiat exchange so that you can take the money out and move out. Then, now if you consider the total amount, that's comparatively lower than which is moving to the crypto exchanges. So you move Ether into a different exchange and you actually buy different asset. So you're moving out of Ether, you're moving into different assets. So that is going to show a lot of different coins popping here and there soon. Now, it may not be in the big cap coins. Most likely, we would see that fluctuation coming in medium, small, and ultra small cap coins. So let's actually break these so that we understand these things better and we are prepared for the next leg up. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now, when we are looking at this, okay, yes, we are right now observing some of these coins slowly going back up, making them green in last 1 week. Now, we also do have to look at the volume. Some of them are significant volume showing that they are moving. But now it is just starting. So when you're going into this, looking at the altcoins in general, this is kind of a trend line which you are following. And, there is a big possibility if I'm looking at this saying, okay, yes, we got resisted, the price slowed down here, but you can't actually neglect the possibility of price making this pattern. So if we are able to make this one, this usually ends up bullish. And if you are trying to get an idea of how high this can actually go, usually that's the measured move. So if you are observing, there is a big possibility of this. So that's 57% after the break to the upside. So you put that into perspective from the price right now, you may actually see some of these coins doubling by the time we complete this pattern. So most likely, if you are in the micro, small, medium cap coins, you are going to see some of these coins breaking higher. And that's where assets which has already broken the medium term resistance are going to have the advantage. So now when you're looking at the market and being bearish, you need to actually understand like there is a lot of potential in the market where the possibilities suggest that you may go higher. Great. Now you will have resistance, you will have levels to pass through. So if it is Ether which you are eyeing at, once we bottom and break through this level, we're going to actually come back somewhere close to 2200. Now, yes, we already came close to 2000, so it's not a big high. But once you break that, that is when you are going to observe something similar from the altcoin market. So you will observe the same coming here, but it'll completely depend on the fundamental side of it. If the merge coming in is going to be bad, and if that's now, we don't know the insider information, what's happening there, right? But looking at this, we can say like, okay, that does not actually look good. This precisely never look good because people are moving out either to fiat when there is a huge inflation, but right now with the interest rates going higher like this, you may actually benefit by having cash. So then you're looking at other people going into other assets. Now, you go into the Bitcoin side of this and you're looking at the same structure and you're seeing entirely different news, right? You go on to the demand side of this, then you get the similar news. Okay, people are not actually doing that. And then when you are going into the supply side of this, you actually see this. This is actually a good news. So if you are looking at this, yes, that's one of the important structure which you need to definitely understand, because unless you are a short-term guy, you really don't want to go into short-term fluctuations and trying to time the market. This is from a legend. And Graham Stephen is actually highlighting that here. Now, maybe you'll agree with this, maybe you won't. But if you take this numbers and then consider what this guy is saying, then look at his track record, now you'll understand something. Fundamentals, utility does matter. So if you are in the market, yes, you will see that there is a lot of opportunity when the Fed right now coming out and putting this one, that is actually a really great news. So if I'm looking at this, yes, there is two sides to this where they are highlighting like the emerging crypto asset sector presents potential opportunity to the banking organizations. Fine. Their customers and the overall financial system. Great. On the other side of this, they do highlight like, however, crypto asset related activities may also pose risk related to safety and soundness, consumer protection and financial stability. So when they are saying there's opportunity for the financial system in the world, and then on the other side, they say financial stability issues, what is it actually? Those who are working with the current system, banks, financial institutions, they may actually serve this new era. Whereas those who are opposing that, saying, no banks, no governments, that kind of attitude, they may have trouble. Say exchanges, if you are moving into, fiat, now you certainly need those exchanges to put that into your bank account. If the government is coming out and saying like, okay, you can't deal with these assets towards fiat, done. Now, all you can do is go to a decentralized exchange and, try moving it into different crypto assets. Fine. But again, then you'll have to move it. There is a lot of stuff going behind that. So this can impact the market. So being in utility-based fundamental assets will serve you well. Because on the other side, we can definitely understand this doesn't actually look good. If you are looking at the macro scenario, understanding even central banks are holding gold and this happening with gold, that's like, okay, people are actually preparing. So real estate market, that's going to actually get hit. And if you are having dry powder, you may have opportunity in the stock market. Now, when we say stock market, you need to understand there are different sectors within that, right? You can look at like technology side of this. You can look at like, the service sector. So each of these will have individual kind of stuff. Now, panic will come in to every one of these, but people do understand like what will be used in next month or so. Because if you are going to look at like, the Zoom And their stock during the health crisis, we actually saw like, okay, people are not working face to face. Now they're actually moving Zoom. So the price actually went up. Now, if you look at the current price and where it was, now you can definitely get one point. Either the competition is sky high or people are not using that much. That means you're going back to your workplace. So the use of that is reducing. So anyone who saw this coming and, just bought that initially, they dumped it or they took profit. Great. So the fundamental of each asset which you have is going to play a huge role. Now, if you're coming into XRP, okay, great. There's a daily chart. You saw I have 10-15% downside. But if you're actually taking a step back, you'll see like, okay, we are still in this range. We haven't actually changed much. Now, most of the investors or traders here in crypto, they don't actually want to look at the macro. Most of them want to know like, what's going to happen next hour or next day. But when you're looking at that perspective, you're going to short-term charts, you will actually get a perspective like, okay, this is your support range and this is where you are. So if you are trying to trade this market, you're trading like buying here, selling here. So if that is the case, what are you going to do now? But, this is crypto market. We don't know what's going to happen. It can actually way lower, kick you out and then go back up. You lose the money, the market goes back to the intended direction. So you don't want that to happen. Rather, there is a pain actually to watch that, yeah, there is a huge possibility for you to go up, but then it actually drops back to the support. So that actually gives you like, okay, I'm waiting for this to actually go back up, 0.5, 0.6 at least for the first leg. That does not happen. So for XRP, one of the key level right now is to actually break this short-term range. Because we've been trading inside this range and abiding by this level of resistance and support. So say 0.38, 0.39, we need to break through that. That's the key level for XRP right now to say like, okay, we are going back higher. If you go to the Ether chart right now, you will actually see something similar where, this is your level of resistance. You try to break through that. So if you're going back to history, you'll see like, okay, that was a support before. So if you are looking at Ether and you say like this, now, yes, there is a higher odds that you may actually slow down. But you do have to keep in mind historical correction is somewhere in between 20 towards 35%, and right now you're close to like 25%. So if you are that guy who's trying to get the absolute bottom, you may wait, you may do your stuff, but most likely this correction kind of gives you that idea. If you are looking at the recent corrections which happened in the market, this one was like around 18%. All of these previous one were something close. So this is like 20%. This one after that is like around 18%. So you get the point, 18, 20, 25 right now. So based on these, we have done even more. And on a daily chart, you're right now standing at your 50-day moving average, which is significant. Then you go on to a 3-day chart, you see like the 20-day moving average is a little bit lower. So you may have short-term volatility here. So if you are putting in buy orders, you may have to consider that. Great. Now we go on to the altcoins, and you're looking at the altcoins and asking this question like, okay, am I at a support? Can I actually buy? Right now, yes, it does actually look like you are at a support. But on a 3-day chart, you can actually see like you already hit the 20-day moving average and you're slowly bouncing from there. So now you actually go into a short-term chart to see like, okay, what really is happening there? Is this actually going to be something where, the price can actually go a V-shaped recovery? No one actually knows, right? But if you're looking at this, a small pump here should not actually bring you back saying this is ultra bullish, because you can go back up here and then get rejected and come back lower, right? You go bounce from here, you reach here and then come back lower. That's a huge possibility. So your confirmation about the reversal will come here. As you break through this, that's the short-term scenario. Now, you take the same and come to the strength of the market, and you are looking at this in a different way, right? The market shows you like, okay, it is actually becoming a little bit more bullish. Now, you go back here, the last time when you were dropping like this, you can actually try and see like, okay, what the market was suggesting to you. This is a deviation from what the price was doing. You get that? The price was making lower lows and trying to slow down here. But what happens, like, if you're looking at this from here to here, a new low, but the RSI is kind of slowing down and bouncing. Now, we take that into account and look at this one. Yes, right now, you are getting that deviation. Now, understand that it is happening on a shorter time horizon. You go on an hourly chart and you look at this and say like, okay, this is trending lower, whereas the RSI, it's slowly starting to trend higher. But yes, again, it's on an hourly scenario. So unless you are a super short-term trader, this should not entice you to go leverage inside this market. This can go wrong, completely wrong. This is crypto market. But when you actually break this and come back up, that kind of gives a little bit more confidence that, okay, this is kind of changing a little bit. But again, now you have this level which you have to surpass. So if you're just aiming for this 5-10% in between, you better make sure that your risk reward ratio is well abiding by that rule and you're in an exchange where your spread is too low. Otherwise, that's not beneficial for you in any different ways. And then you do understand this scenario. Now you're like, okay, I'm not actually going to do that.